What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Oxygen Not Included, Season 2, Episode something. It's in the title. Anyway, so straight to it. Still a few of the steel ladders to clear up. Obviously, we did that previously anyway. And the hospital is up and running. By up and running, I've got the resources. Nobody's actually used it to my knowledge yet, but we could. I could have missed it, I suppose. Just make sure that there is no germs there. Making sure it stays clean. Again, remember, the actual issue I'm having is zombie spore. I will have is zombie spores, and that is not the high enough level to do zombie spores. So I will need to wait until we've got the sun eggs. So next, I need to tackle this left-hand side that's a little bit high. I've ignored it for the zombie spores that are there, and also the steam that was trapped. The zombie spores there that are trapped was for good reason, and to be honest, I should have left well alone. This is what I've been talking about all this time. Yes, it bites me in the arse, but nevertheless, we do and will get through it. It's not the end of the world. So what I'm going to try and do here is dig out the majority of this. There is going to be some heat here still, not intense, but you're talking a couple of 100 degrees, which isn't too much for the nuggets anyway without Atmo suits. But at this rate, I just want to pop the cork. I'm going to put that barrier there and then open the rest of this up and then think of a way of cooling it down over time. I don't need to use it yet, or at least I don't have a plan to use it yet, but realistically, future-proofing, we'll probably need some thermo generators down here as well. Though actually thinking about it, with the amount of natural gas and hydrogen we're making, I don't think I will. But still, I just want it to be leveled out. It clearly looks like I've ignored it, which I have. But at least I'll make it the same level as the other side, so it looks like I've actually finished. You can see there currently these zombie spores are trapped. The blue is the zombie spores. They are currently trapped. Let's just hope an accident doesn't happen, spoiler. But yeah, so that's where we're going to dig out. When they get a chance, there are other things that they're working on as well, and the ladders, which is used up, I would say, about 95% of our steel. The Atmo suits for that left-hand side I have kicked out just because I didn't like this setup there. I'd rather it be further down. Or the idea is that I'm going to start building rooms off to the side, and I want them rooms to have their own access, and they won't need Atmo suits unless I need them. And obviously, if that's the case, then I'll just do it per room, not just over everything. Still working away here, and we did manage to pop the cork on the top before I closed it in at the top, so you can see that spread out. The idea of that is I'm just hoping that the heat dissipating will cool down for us and make the job a lot less hassle. Something is working because you can see there is water in there, so something is dropping the steam below 100 degrees. So hopefully that will work. I have the plan to, and yes, you can see that the spores have been released, unfortunately, somehow. I'm not sure if I did that or if it did that or whatever happened, but it happened. So just going to get them to finish off this, keep them separate for now. You can see the zombie spores are spreading like wildfire. Nothing I can do about it. And at this time, I wasn't aware that it'd be as problematic as it will be. But we'll see how it goes shortly. In the meantime, we'll just leave them to dig that hole. Now, I do stop them at some point, about halfway between what they've dug and where it ends. The temperature starts to rocket up. Even though I've left a thin layer, it's still enough to transmit the heat to like 100 to 200 degrees, so I stop them. And we'll look at doing that a better way. I've got plenty of frozen items and cold things I can use to try and cool things down where I need to. Even some thermoplates where they're made of ice work really well for cooling down areas quickly as well. As I said, it got a bit dangerous, so I've just chucked down a section of Atmo suits here. I had spares from that thing we broke. You can see them where they're walking curled over like that, very slow. That is the zombie spores. Now, as far as I'm aware, the zombie spores doesn't kill them or turn them into zombies, like you would believe, but it makes them into actual, like, living zombies. Everything is reduced by 10 points. Their movement speed is awful. They can suffocate very easily, etc. So it is really bad, and I don't have a solution for it. Rest assured, I won't fall for that again. I'd rather just leave it there as an ornament than touch anything to do with zombie spores moving forward. This is just to allow them to get into that area. Still, 200 degrees is pushing the limits of the atmo suits that I've made, but it will keep them safe and stop them from burning up and also struggling for oxygen. Again, especially if they've got zombie spores, because they're so slow, they just wouldn't have time to get in there, do a task, and then run out, because they can't run. Just building a bit of access now for the shipping pipes you can see there, and then the little, what do you want to call that, airlock, just to get into that steam area without releasing it into the bottom. Again, the idea is that I can use this, and you can see it goes into the base, and it's already up near the top where we have all of the liquefiables, however you call them. And the idea there is that I'll dump them in there, the steam will cool them up, the water, the steam will then obviously turn the ice into water, cooling the steam down, and just genuinely cooling the room down, hopefully down to, once it gets to like 50 or below, it's safe. Certainly not going to insta-kill them, and then obviously below sort of 30, 40, they just complain, but it doesn't do any harm. This UV lamp I've got on the pump to make sure that all of the liquid, clean water that's pumped around the base is germ-free, is working, but it's now down, it was about 200,000 germs. It's now down to 3,000, but it's going very slow. So I expect it to work in time, but not instantly, of course. So upon losing a duplicant to the zombie spores, but specifically not the zombies, the zombie spores caused the death, but the actual reason for death was they forgot to breathe. And it wasn't that. That was just to be funny. They was basically in an area where there was no breathable air, and they were too slow because of the zombie spores to get back. You can see them all doing it here. They're going through these doors where they can't breathe. But when they need to run back because they're running out of air, they can't run because they have zombie spores, and therefore they run out of time. Now, yes, I could upgrade the ladders, but that's an expense that I can't afford to do. I don't have enough steel. So what I'm actually trying to do is I'm making everybody with zombie spores have their own routine, which is basically just rest, bedtime, and washing. Nothing more, no work required. So they have however long they've got it for off, which I believe it's about 15 to 17 cycles or days in total. And I'm just going to go through and select all of those. So none of them should be out where they shouldn't be, and therefore nobody should die. They can just be happy. Well, at least as happy as you can be with zombie spores anyway. See if it works. The only problem I've got is if I do it, if too many get the zombie spores, then I will likely lose my entire staff. And there are some things like, and there's another warning, like you can see here, that Amari is very low on oxygen, has zombie spores, you can see the thing above the head, and they are running for their lives to try and get air, and by running they are very slow at it. So back over here, you can see I've opened it up. That idea that I had, it didn't work. The ice just wasn't melting quick enough. It really didn't seem to do anything, if I'm perfectly honest. Again, it doesn't act like ice that I'm used to seeing. I'm sure there's ways of doing it, but I had a negative 50-degree ice block in a 250-degree area, and it didn't change the temperature of either of them, which I mean, it goes against the law of physics, but it is a game. So instead, I've just opened the whole thing up to make the area larger, and by doing so, should dissipate more energy quicker, and it will cool down over time. And once it's at a reasonably manageable level, I can open the top and let it mix with the air that's trapped on that left-hand side. Obviously, none of it will mix with the base, because the base is on its own sort of setup. Any oxygen is built up in there. It pushes the oxygen out the bottom, which the bottom is slightly open, just enough so that the carbon dioxide can get pushed out there, and then there's a sensor that picks that up and collects it, just to keep pretty much the whole base, apart from sort of the bottom 2 floors, with a decent amount of oxygen. And now I'm just running these along this platform because, well, because I can, but it's just to help with the beauty a little bit. Don't think it'll make much difference, but it's a step forward. It's very green, which is good, and that's good for their morale. And here is the new research room. Very simple, connected with a insulated ceiling door, so that it's its own entity. At the top there, you can see a sensor and a vent. All that's for is to keep the room with a decent amount of oxygen, And that's it, really. Then I'm going to put in the buildings as I can. Put them close enough together that I can use more than one light is my idea. And by more than one light, I mean use one light for more than one station. I'll set it back to front, but yeah. So them two will fit nicely, and then just a duplicate sensor next to that. And if they use any of those, and I mean the idea is I do actually have more than one researcher, so we could have more than one working at once at a time. And with that, you can see we can automate it, no problem. And then I just need to do the same for the planetarium, I think it's called, something like that. That's the level 4 research. And of course, the radioactive one, I'm going to stick right to the far left-hand side. So they're not going to be in order of research, because the third level that uses radiation and rad bolts is, well, in my opinion, best to keep it more out the way, because it's going to be kicking off radiation by its design. I'm going to do exactly the same setup as I did up there. 3 𝐷𝐿s, nothing more. I've not had problems with it. It works. It might not be the quickest. It's certainly not the slowest. And as long as you have phosphorus to keep the plants alive, you're fine. If that ever runs out, we do have uranium that I can use with a uranium type rad bolt maker, but for now we'll do this. And if we get the research done, then I hope that that will be, well, there's no hoping about that. Once the research is done, then this whole thing is a waste of time and we can get rid of it and don't need to waste any phosphorus or uranium. Exactly the same setup, nothing's changed. And then I'll get a light above that as well with a duplicate sensor, and that will be above the planetarium. I'm not sure if it makes a difference with the planetarium, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's it, really. It's a case of firing the rad bolt into, I need to turn that, into there. I'll put the automation wires in as well, so that it automatically turns off the gun from firing when the machine is full. The machine only holds 100. If you put in any more than that, it will waste them. And jumping over to the other side, I have moved the geysers as well. Wasn't that difficult. Just with the thing we've already used, the displacer, the little gold trophy thing. Just move them over, move the building over, and then I've done the wallpaper tiles again for my colour scheme. There is more there than before because I have more resources now than I did before. Obviously don't have them all, but there's some nicer ones there, some nice blues and whites, so that's good. And again, the only difference here is I've moved it away from the base so that the heat can't seep through. There's a huge gap there, you can see it's like 2 to 8 blocks between that and the base now. So, and this is how I want to do all of the buildings. I don't want them connected to the base at all. The farms are okay, but realistically all of this on the left hand side will need to be moved as well. But again, it's mostly temporary. That tank full of -degree liquid is a bit useless actually. The research thing is only there until we finish the research. Below that is the smeltery, the refineries, etc. But that uses the ethanol now as a coolant, not the brine. So again, this whole brine setup is served its purpose, and I likely will do one of two things: just use it for something else if I can, or last resort will be just to run it through a desalinator and turn it into clean water. We are, after all, using water for all of our oxygen, and I do expect that that water level will decrease and become problematic very soon. Now, there is a geyser up there, and I think there's actually 2 polluted water geysers. I definitely need to get them into the fold. Actually, there's the brine ones as well, so I need to get both of them geysers in, because that's infinite water. And we need to get them both done, both into sieves or desalinators, and then both pumping into the clean water tank. And that's one snazzy research station. Nothing too fancy in there. Again, it is lights with a few automation wires to make everything run as it should do. There are automation wires, of course, going to the lights as well, just to make sure that nothing is wasting electricity. But also, the actual main problem isn't the electricity for me. With lights, it's the heat that they give off, and heating up, they will overheat your base after a while, because they run at like high 30s. And that's far too warm for your duplicants. So, yeah, turning them off when they're not running allows them to cool down. And saves you electricity. But again, the saving electricity part is second to the fact that it doesn't overheat your base. And there you go. That research is now being actioned with the data banks using 10 data banks, and then they do this little virtual reality thing in the glass ball, and that will give us that 4th level of research. As I mentioned when we was talking about the hospital as well, the other hospital now is just the med bays. This one is for the serums. So the serums are that very, very end game high level one, and these are the things that cure zombie spores. Unfortunately, the medicine they need I cannot make, but I thought, why not just build the room anyway, make yet another hospital, which will give a buff to health recovery. All you need in there is the machine, any of the machines, the medical machines, a decor item, which there's obviously the whole thing along the ceiling is decor, so that would have counted. The wallpaper is decor. But then a sink as well, a plumbed sink has to be plumbed, which with our new found plumbing setup that we've already put in place, it's nice and easy. We know that the blue cable is, or the blue pipe is clean, and the white pipe is dirty. And that's it. Nice and simple, excellent looking room, standing as a hospital. You can see there, whatever they're eating above there, they did not enjoy. That's on my bad. I am trying to work on decent food for them, honest. And unfortunately, but just to show you, I don't like losing duplicants, and I really don't think I should be losing duplicants, but I am losing them to the zombie spores, and this is why. You can see here the exact same thing with how slow they are because of the zombie spores, and you saw there that yes, but the time they need oxygen and run for it, they can't run, they basically suffocate. So unfortunately, rest in peace Otto. I think now that will be the 5th duplicant to have died due to the zombie spores. We lost one right at the beginning, or near the beginning, I can't remember reason, but they were obviously buried down there. And then all of the other ones are because of the zombie spores causing them to suffocate. Now I did do the separate route where they could do what they want, but strangely when I set them that they could do what they want, they still wanted to work, which was weird. So I tried setting them on just bathroom and bedtime, and that made them sad, so I unleashed them. What I have done is I've gone through every single person now, and whatever they are specialised to, I have set them for high priority. Everything else is medium priority or below. Nobody has multiple high priorities, everybody has one. I believe I have 5 farmers and 3 ranchers, though we don't have a ranch, so maybe I will fix that, not sure. I did restrict the farms to farmers only because I was trying to stop the people that were ill from coming down here, but it's too much, to be honest. We need the masses to join in when the fertilization needs to happen. So if there's any fertilization, or actually it's just fertilization because the harvesting is done by the 2 reapy robots. You see the green robots, they do the harvesting and the replanting. And then next to the doors of each of the farms, you can see there is a chest. That chest is specifically for the fertilizer that is needed for that row. If it's empty, it doesn't need fertilizer. The mushroom one was the most difficult because it needs slime, and obviously slime is bad to keep in a chest. But if you look in the mods, you will see I have installed a mod that has additional chests. And there is a gas-locked one. So it stops the sublimation, i.e. stuff from decaying and gassing off. And there is also an insulated one that allows you to keep hot and cold things in there that doesn't affect the environment around. Though the insulated one is very expensive and it needs plastic. See another person struggling there, but they do make it, spoiler. There are a lot of spraying things around as well because I went on a bit of a spree to get them to do it, but I only have 2 cleaners. So finally it is time, and I think I am happy that the base is managing on its own. Yes, we will run out of water eventually, but there are ways of getting around that. And also water is on other asteroids, so what I'm going to do is get the telescope in place and start building the rocket platforms. Just as a note, if you are following along or playing along, although I did build it there, the heat from the rocket exhaust still makes it into my base. It's really poor how it does that, I don't know why. So I do raise the whole platform up to the same level as this side to make a huge gap between the rocket launch and the base, because I do not need 500 plus degree anything spraying into my nice base. So yeah, first thing we need to do is get the satellite up and running, or the telescope. I have got the enclosed one here and build the enclosed one, but then I changed my mind at the last minute because it's just not needed and it's a waste of oxygen, because you have to pump oxygen into it for it to work. And to be honest, other than the radiation protection that it gives, which is 50%, for how long they're in the building, I'm not bothered. So I'll rip that down and do the cheaper version and just let them do it in their Atmo suits. Down here you can see it's calming down. Still hot, but it is cooling. I mean, it's probably cooled about 30 degrees since we did it. So it's down to about 170 now from 200. So it is working. We could use that heat for something else or cool it down with other means, but I don't need this space if I'm honest. So I'm not going to rush to make problems out of things that I don't believe are going to benefit me where I'm at. What I am actually after now is getting that done, as it just finished. That will then find us another asteroid or more, maybe 2. Then we'll get a rocket built and we'll get somebody to that rocket and see what it's like. Usually I use the rovers to scope planets before sending anybody. This time I don't, and I'll be honest, I regret it, but nevertheless, we'll try and make it work. So yeah, just getting the wires in place, to be honest, for the rocket, other than actually a power cable to charge the rocket faster. You don't really need any power in it. I'm not doing the gantry because they just used far too much power, and I'm not comfortable using that much power yet. If I am going to do that, of course, I will take the main cable through. So the power spine cable, the main cable, I'll just take that to the surface, because each gantry is 2,000 watts. And I really don't want to be putting loads of different lines of cables out there, because I'd like to have at least 4 platforms, rocket platforms. But we'll see. The rocket is coming along nicely. I did go for the sugar rocket as opposed to the carbon dioxide just because of the range. The sugar rocket is something we can afford for now using sucrose. I think you're using it just under half a ton per launch for the sugar rocket. We have 9.5 tons, so I don't mind doing 3 or 4 launches, and then I'll probably hold off unless we can get some Swedos to get a sucrose farm going, but we'll see. In the meantime, it works nicely. I can use the carbon dioxide as a last resort. There is also steam, but we don't really have an easy way of making steam. Oh, we do have some, but it's not enough to fill a rocket. And then there are other things. I think there is a hydrogen engine, which if there is, that's probably where we'll end up going to and staying. Because one thing I know we have a lot of is hydrogen now. And natural gas, but I know for a fact you can't use that. But we will get to that in the next episode because we are at time now. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please click like. Of course, as always, any comments are welcome. Subscribe for more. Join us on Discord. Take care. Goodbye.